Evening. It is Thursday, June 16th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. We are at the District Service Center in Cottage Grove, Minnesota. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the land of the Mdewakanton, Dakota people. Mdewakanton means dweller of the Spirit Lake. Our first item on the agenda is our roll call. Dana, will you call the roll?
Melinda Doles is absent. Eric Tessmer.
Here.
Louise Hines.
Here.
Katie Schwartz.
Here.
Simi Petnaik.
Here.
Pat Driscoll.
Here.
Sharon Van Leer.
Here. Next, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have 3.0, the approval of our agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So move. Second.
Who seconded? It has been moved by Pat, seconded by Louise. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. The next item on our agenda is 4.0, activities report. That will be presented by our high school athletic directors, Paul Kuemmel, Jodi
Loeblein-Lecker.
Okay, and Sara Palodichuk. Oh, I did good.
Good evening. Board Chair Van Leer, board members, and Superintendent Nielsen, thank you for having us here today. We are going to talk about our year in review in our activities offices. This year was a lot like putting together a 10,000-piece puzzle that have very small pieces with a very similar color and landscape throughout the course of the school year. So if you could go ahead and move to the next slide, that would be great.
Oh, we're doing that, sorry.
Oh, we are,
Yep.
okay. Thanks, okay. So we worked hard together with our own team as well as with other schools, and as we did that, we did things this year that in past years we probably said, yeah, that can't happen, or that can't work, or what do you mean you're calling to cancel the game on the day of a game? We dealt with staffing issues in which our announcer couldn't come or our bookkeeper couldn't come. We had to ask new people to fill into different roles. We redid the schedule multiple times, usually the day of a game, and that was not always common. At least last year, we redid the schedule 3 times before the hockey season ever began because we just didn't know when it was going to start. We continued to deal with COVID in a variety of different ways. We didn't have enough officials, and when we did, sometimes they had COVID. We had coaches call and tell us that they had COVID, and we also had teams that had to shut down. When we didn't deal with COVID, we were dealing with supply chain issues and transportation issues. I want to just say that our community members and our families stepped up significantly whenever we weren't able to provide a bus. I didn't receive complaints. They understood the situation that we were dealing with and were very much willing to help. And as we got through 2/3 of that puzzle, we were at the home stretch with the spring season. It was like a bottle of water fell all over our puzzle because Mother Nature just let the rain fall all through April, and we rescheduled, and we had to deal with a lot more. So as we look at the course of the season, there were some things that we were really grateful for. One of that was having recommendations instead of requirements. It made our lives a lot easier in our activities offices. Having a shorter quarantine time period made it easier to work with our teams and our coaches. And then last but not least, you'll hear from all of us about how great it was to have our fans back in the stands.
Thanks, Jodi. Good evening. Thank you for the time tonight. A little different format for us this year for those who have been here. In the past, we've come at the end of every season. This year, we kind of decided to do a year wrap-up as a whole. So you could probably guess we could spend hours celebrating all the great things that happened. We will not do that, I promise you that. But we do want to get a chance just to recognize a lot of the great things that happened at all 3 schools throughout our season. So one of the things that we really focus on within all of our schools in high school athletics is we're very purpose-based. We try to make it not all about the scoreboard. And a lot of what you'll hear tonight is accomplishments on the scoreboard, but we're going to share some of the other ones as well too. But we really focus on our purpose, and you can see there, we have a mission statement for our activities department, and we have individual purpose statements as well too. My purpose is, I lead with integrity, commitment, and compassion to provide growth opportunities to caring adults, those are our coaches, advisors, and directors, so that students can have a positive experience and learn life lessons in our educationally based activities. So that's on the door of my office. When I walk in my office every single day, it kind of grounds me to make sure we're doing what we need to be doing in our high school activities programs. Just a brief glance at numbers, and again, it's hard to look at a whole entire year as a whole, but doing a little bit of comparison. And when you look at last year compared to this year, I'll say two things. Number one is, in many sports, not in every sport, in many sports, we saw some rise in participation numbers because people were feeling a little bit better about having their kids involved in activities. So we saw small growth in that. But I will also admit, too, the bigger jump you see there, when my assistant Marty did these numbers, this year the high school league asked us to include trap team and robotics. Those are my two pictures up there, too, in our overall numbers, whereas they might not have been included last year. So that jump you see includes our robotics kids, our trap team, as well as some of the kids that decided to come out this year who may not have come out last year. Just a brief glance at some of our fall highlights. I joke with people, our theme this year at Park High School was section runner-up. And you're going to hear there was a lot of section runner-ups. And of course, who doesn't want to be section champions? And you go on to state and that kind of thing, but that idea of getting to section championship with a chance to go to state is pretty cool, and you'll see a lot of those there. Girls tennis team, section runner-ups this year. Sarah's going to highlight a little bit more in depth about some of the great things that happen with our Thunderbolts. You hear about the Thunderbolts every year. It's my favorite sport to watch. The kids can be winning by 20 or losing by 20, and they have a smile on their face from ear to ear. But Sarah's going to focus a little bit more on that. We did have, for our first time in our I believe our program history, we had individuals make the state tennis tournament. We had two females, they were doubles team, Abby Fjellsta and Hannah Holmgren made it to the state tournament. That was a great accomplishment. From our girls swim and dive team, we had a couple state meet participants, Ellen Jensen and Caitlin Greenwald. Caitlin is a diver and also made all-state based on her results at the state diving meet. We had some coaches receive some accomplishments. Two football coaches, our head coach and our assistant coach, received sub-district. We don't play conference football, we play district football, and they have sub-districts, but they received awards for the coach of the year. And, throughout the year, we do signing ceremonies for kids who are continuing their college education and athletics at the level. We did 3 this year, which is you normally haven't done. And there's a picture there of our 8 students from the fall who had who participated in our signing ceremony. Moving on to winter, again, I hate to say it, but I'm going to continue with my theme. We had wrestling, we had girls basketball, we had boys basketball, all in section championships this year. Did not quite make it, but still quite an accomplishment. The other thing I have to point out, never in my life have I been to a sold-out high school sporting event. And we had that this year for our section championship at Eastview. We've had a great team, and I should have mentioned one of the pictures, one of the signees from our last picture, Pharrell Payne from Park is going to play basketball at Minnesota. So a lot of people have followed him. We've had big crowds throughout the entire season, but to play at Eastview in a section championship in a sold-out gym was pretty amazing, so that was neat. We had some gymnasts at state, Leah Smith, Raina Jameson, Ashley Lentz, an alpine skier, Luke Bolbeck, participated at state. Boys swimming and diving had a phenomenal year this year. Mac Lena, Ethan Anderson, Evan Darling, and Mitchell LeMay competed at state. Matt set 3 school records. One of them was over 20 years old. And then the relay team of those 4 individuals I just mentioned broke a school record in 200 relay as well, too. Some great things. State meet participants, we had 5 wrestlers in our state meet. Zach Carr, Zach Silvis, Gunnar Mullen, Will Deutsch, and Alex Carr. And one of those I would like to bring up and introduce here for you. Zach Silvis took 2nd place at state this year. Phenomenal career, phenomenal run. Zach's coach is Jim LaBrosse. Jim's a wrestling coach, and he teaches at Pine Hill Elementary. He had a trip scheduled out of town, wished he could be here. I'm going to read Jim's write-up word for word, like in his words, because honestly, Jim could not be more proud of this student athlete next to me right now. I could not be more proud, but I wanted to say it in Jim's words. So, from Coach LaBrosse. I've had the privilege to coach Zach the past 4 years. During this time, he's accomplished many awards. A 4-time state entrant, so that means all 4 years, obviously. 3-time All-State. He took 6th place in 2020. He took 3rd place in 21 and finished 2nd place this year, obviously in the championship. The first finalist that Park has had in wrestling since '91. He is a phenomenal wrestler. He's also a phenomenal student. 2-time All-State academic. In off-season, he also participates in wrestling. He was the 2019 Greco-Roman U15 World Champion, which took place in Budapest, Hungary. So he's traveled the world a little bit with his wrestling as well, too. More importantly, Jim says, I've seen Zach grow into a mature young man who understands the meaning of hard work, dedication, discipline, and leadership. In my 28 years of coaching high school wrestling, I have not come across a more special student athlete. He strives to be the best he can be on and off the mat and consistently makes others around him better people. Zach was accepted to West Point, but I'm going to have him share a little bit about his plans for next year. Jim is very much looking forward to watching Zach's bright future. And again, I've talked about his accomplishments, phenomenal wrestler, phenomenal student, and a phenomenal person. So we'll have Zach step up and just tell us a little bit about his plans for next year.
All right, my name is Zach Silvis. I was a student at Park last 4 years, just graduated. Had a great time wrestling at Park, obviously. Being an athlete, Phil. I think I've probably been at like 100 different sport events over the 4 years, and I think I've seen Phil at every single one of them. If he ever isn't there, then he shows up later because he was at a different one. I think he'll probably, if there's like 8 different events in one day, he'll just jump, make sure he gets to all 8 in one day. It's pretty impressive. I don't think I could ever do that.
Thank you very much.
My plans for the future, obviously, like you said, I got accepted to West Point. I decided that that wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted. So I actually decided to attend North Dakota State University to continue my academic career as well as wrestling and study computer engineering and computer science. And so that'll be the next 5-6 years, depending how long. After that, hopefully I can get back into competing wrestling at a higher level, as well as maybe getting into like coaching, helping out the younger group of wrestlers out there. Yeah.
Thank you, Zach. Zach's dad, Mike, is one of our assistant coaches. Zach's mom is here with us. Chris, teacher in the district, was at Woodbury High School, and we are very happy that she'll be joining us on the staff at Park High School next year. So congratulations to Zach, and thank you guys both for being here. Going through back to our winter highlights, I mentioned Pharrell Payne. He earned second-team All-State honors for boys basketball. Again, assistant coach, earning some recognition, Jared Flata in gymnastics. In the February, we had 5 student athletes signing the national letter of intent. Jumping ahead to the spring here, our robotics team were state tournament participants. Again, we'll talk about softball. I'm happy to report one of our sports broke the mold. Our baseball team made it to the section championship, and our baseball team won the section championship. Made it to the state tournament. That was this past week. It was a lot of baseball in the last 2 days, really 3 days for Park baseball. Lost our first game on Tuesday in a heartbreaker. It was a 3-2 game, very close game. Could have gone either way, but lost to a good Farmington team. That was actually a rematch of last year's state championship game. Farmington beat us 12-10 last year at Target Field. Unfortunately, we drew them in the first round. They beat us 3-2, a great game, and they won today, and they may go on and win it. You never know. But the great thing was that the State High School League offers consolation brackets in our tournaments, and we came back yesterday and won 2 games. Beat St. Louis Park 10-0, and then came back in the last game and beat Sartell 5-3. So a great finish after a tough loss. They got 2 wins, consolation champs for baseball. Phenomenal group there. Girls lacrosse was in the section championship as runner-up. Track and field. We sent 3 individuals to the track and field meet, and all 3 of them, and actually one competed in 2 events, but of the 4 competitors, they all ended up on the podium. Podium means top 9 in the state, so that's pretty impressive. Raina Jameson, who you heard her name competing in state gymnastics, also competed in state track and field. In the high jump, she took 6th. O.T. Omot competed in 2 events. He was 8th in the triple jump and 8th in the high jump also. And Evan Brumman joined him in the high jump and took 9th. So great showing at track and field. We had another signing ceremony with 3 students. And Each year at the end of the school year, we do an athletic award ceremony. And again, one of the other themes you'll hear from me in a little bit here about we got a chance to be back to normal. In person, chance to celebrate and recognize all the accomplishments like Zach's and all the others we had this year at that athletic awards ceremony. A couple quick fine arts things. There's many we could mention, but a couple I just wanted to bring up. Our one-act play made it to the section finals. We had a new director this year, and obviously has directed theater a long time, but directing competitive theater is a little different in the one-act play, and Tracy Capernigue did a great job. They made it to the section finals. Our musical, I honestly cannot say enough about. They did the Little Mermaid this year. I've been at Park for 19 years. We have never once sold out a musical performance. And they typically do 6, like 2 weekends, 3 one weekend, 3 the other weekend. We've never sold out a musical performance. We sold out 5 out of 6 shows this year. One of the ones that I was at, there was an 8 or 9 year old girl. I kind of always sit in the back. There was an 8 or 9 year old girl in front of me, and she was dancing. And as Ariel was moving, she was moving. And that I think that had a lot to do with selling out the shows, of doing a Disney performance like that kids can go to. But the cast and crew did a great job. Again, I'm not going to read all those. I know it's a little bit hard to read on the screen. But every year the Hennepin Theater Trust does spotlight awards for great performances, and you can see all the things that got listed there for both performance level as well as individual levels of things that were spotlighted by them. Just yesterday, they had a chance to go to the Hennepin Theater, and they don't do their whole entire show, but they do a portion of their show and got to showcase that. So great job by our fine arts this year. We do want to recognize some of the individuals that are winning Minnesota State High School League awards or awards similar to that. The Excel Award is for juniors who excel in community, education, and leadership. Our junior winners for that were Lydia Best and Chase Hyber. The AAA Award from the High School League is Excellence in Academic Arts and Athletics. And our AAA award winners were Abby Felsta. She was our tennis player that went to state. And Carter Summerness. Our Athena award winner was Megan Maloney. Again, we got to have a little bit more of a normal Athena ceremony this year. Not quite normal, because they limited it. Each guest got to bring 4 people with them. So that was pretty much mom and dad, and probably a coach or 2. If they had extra tickets, ADs weren't attending. This is an event that usually Julie and our building principals and assistant superintendents can attend. In the past, they couldn't this year because of limitations there, but hopefully we'll get back to that. At Park, we recognize an Apollo winner similar to Athena with an excellent male athlete, and that was Evan Berth. And then another thing we really try to stress is kids participating in multiple activities. We had 27 total 3-sport letter winners. They're lettering in all 3 seasons, and 7 of those were seniors. Favorite moments. It's hard to wrap up an entire year in 5 minutes. I'm going to cheat a little bit and go back to a year ago to this time as one of my all-time favorite moments of 19 years, and that was that title baseball game at Target Field. State championship game, we haven't been in tons of those, but being at Target Field and seeing the community support. Like, these are people from Cottage Grove, St. Paul Park, the district, who didn't have a son playing on the team, didn't have a child in high school, but they came out to support that team. So that, combined with playing at Target Field, is one of my all-time favorite memories. A couple other things, like Jodi mentioned, we got to have fans in the stands this year. And it's almost hard to remember last year we didn't have that. Last year we had 2 parents or 4 parents at a game, and that was it. And be able to have the students back, and kids love participating in front of their classmates, and their classmates love cheering them on. And being able to have that this year was phenomenal. Another favorite moment that stands out, a lot of schools do a type of fundraising thing, a tackle cancer game. This year we partnered with Woodbury for our tackle cancer game. So instead of them having their own tackle cancer game and then we having our own, we did them together. It happened to be at Park this year. We did shirts that had both logos on it. And the profits that we made from that went back to area families. And near and dear to my heart, we made a donation to the Randy Shaver Cancer Fund on behalf of a former coach of ours, teacher coach, who passed away from brain cancer, Matt Maher. And we were able to recognize his family before that game. Woodbury was also recognized a family from their community who is battling cancer. And just 2 district schools, rivals, whatever, coming together to raise money for a great cause and having it go right back to families in our community was really special. And the last thing I'll just say is, we said it, you've heard it a lot, that sense of normalcy. We got to have a normal homecoming this year. That didn't happen last year. We got to have a normal prom, and you almost forget how we did it. Last year we had to have 2 sessions of prom and only certain kids in it. This year we got to have a normal prom. So that chance to get back to normal was really, really nice this year. So That is all. Again, I know it's hard. I put a lot out there in 1 year's worth of achievements, but we had a lot of great things happening in our school, and I appreciate the time to be able to share some of those. So I believe I will turn it over back to Jodi.
Thank you, Phil. So similar at Woodbury, we also have our purpose statement. And I always share with parents that a high school is education-based athletics, and we're sandwiched between $1 billion youth sports industry and $1 billion college sports industry. And right in the middle of that is high school. And so how do we try and balance what our purpose is and what our goal may be? And our goal is to win and to be as competitive as we can be. Our purpose is to develop humans. Our purpose is to grow the participants that we have, to become better people, to learn how to be good teammates, and become better at their individual skills and strategy and so forth. So I lead to develop competitive and inclusive leaders that teach successful teamwork and life skills through activities. When you look at our participation numbers, you'll see that our numbers are actually a little bit lower than both Park and Eastridge, Eastridge having the highest numbers. Being my second year, I don't know necessarily what that is attributed to, but I will share with you that we did see an increase this past year. I want to just mention our 5 senior females and 7 males who were 3-sport senior athletes during the course of their year. Those numbers were pretty much on par with the school that I previously worked with for 10 years in terms of the number of 3-sport athletes their senior year. It really begins to dwindle because it's really hard to commit to participating at that high level. We did have some 4-sport athletes, Maggie McCarthy and Scott Hansen. They did 2 sports in 1 season and participating in the others. In regards to our fall highlights, I have Gabby Motter here with us. If you want to come up, Gabby. Gabby was our state champion for diving this past year. Gabby is a 10th grader, and so I'm just going to share a few things about Gabby. I didn't really get to know who Gabby was this year until the beginning of this year, and I knew that she was a phenomenal diver last year. As of last year, she was named the virtual state champion because the fall sports didn't ever have championships finished because COVID had started to hit so bad and we had to go on shutdown. So she was named the virtual state champion. This year she won sections, she won state, she was named All-American. To give you a bit of a sense about her skill set, they dive in high school on a 1-meter board, and she can do 2.5 rotations, 360 in that short period of time. This summer she's diving on 10-meter boards, and so if you ever go to the U of M at their aquatic center, that would be their highest board that's up there and what you would see in the Olympics. With that being said, Gabby's extremely unassuming. When she walks in the hallways, she's not someone that seeks attention. She's a great student athlete, and I'm really glad that we have 2 years left to have Gabby be a part of our Woodbury High School, and she's involved in some of our different clubs with Student Council, and that participation and her leadership will take hold for the next 2 years. So I'm going to have Gabby share a few words.
Hi, my name is Gabby Motter, and I'll be a junior next year at Woodbury. So I'm just super proud to represent Woodbury. This year was my 4th season on the swim and dive team. I participated in 7th, 8th, and then 9th grade, and then 10th grade this year. But this year was a little bit different because we were able to go back to more normal training and just like a normal season. So it was super exciting to be at state with fans and be able to compete with people watching you. And I'm just excited for next season to share another hopefully normal year with my teammates and just, yeah, thank you.
Other fall highlights include, I want to mention Rick Light, who is our diving coach back there, and he was referenced, won this year Section Coach of the Year for diving, so congratulations, Rick. And we also have Liz Horan, who is our girls' head swim and dive coach, right over there as well. So in our girls swimming and diving, we were section runner-up, and we had some state participants, including relays and individual. Ava Reich, Maya Tellies, Chloe Carson, Ava Hacker, Elsa Sorensen-Wagner, and Addison Forche. In football, we won our conference, well, our district, excuse me. We were section champs and we were state participant. Our sophomore or 10th grade quarterback, George Bajelis, won our Metro or Maroon South Offensive Player of the Year. He's very fun to watch, and he has a great supporting cast around with him in our upcoming years. Our girls cross country were section runner-up, and they advanced to the state meet, so it was really exciting to see a full team for cross country runners go. We had 4 individual participants in boys cross country: Dylan Longworth, Logan Munson, Colton Christensen, and Max Key. Our girls state participants are pictured below. Brittany and Ashley Wynn, they're sisters. They typically play our 1 and 2 singles, and for sections they came together to play our doubles, and they advanced through to the state tournament. Our boys soccer coach, Joe Quintavalli, who is an elementary PE teacher, he retired this year. He's coached for 30 years at Woodbury High School, and coaching can be really hard, and doing it anywhere for 30 years is an amazing tenure. He was named the State High School League, or the Coaches Association Coach of the Year after his 30-year career. This year they were the boys section runner-up, losing to Stillwater in an overtime a hard loss. And we had 3 different individuals that were all-state soccer players: Sophia Bargeste, Dylan Hughes, and Joy Gerlach. Those were, all-state mentioned people. Our Miss Soccer finalist was Sophia Bargesta. We had 10 people sign letters of intent in the fall. And then we got 7 new tennis courts, which was absolutely fabulous. The only problem was that the paint didn't come until mid-September, so we had a lot of really hard blacktop and a lot of brand new green balls that became black very quickly. In regards to our winter highlights, if you have not ever been around Woodbury High School in the evening up near the cafeteria area, one thing that you will find is you will find our speech team members. We have about 60 people on our speech team. It's huge. They're very active. We have an amazing coaching staff with Suzanne and Dylan White. Suzanne just gave birth to her 3rd child, and the team is at nationals right now, and she is on Zoom calls with the team multiple times this week. We've been in correspondence with one another. But I share with you our speech team because they dress as if they're very fancy, and all that they wear every time that they have their meets, and we host a few large meets every year. And we have some amazing speech participants. And so right now with nationals, Anatike Anadoga, she is in the center here in the top picture. She was a national champion last year. She's up for Student of the Year this year, meaning that she is one of 12 finalists out of 1,200 students. And so she's an amazing speaker. Tomorrow she'll be providing a live stream of a speech at nationals. So if you want to follow the Twitter account and click on the link, you'll have a chance to do that. Other things that you should know about winter highlights is that our robotics team also participated in state, so we had all 3 of our South Washington County schools attend. In terms of our wrestling team, we had some individual participants attend. Alex Braun was a section champ. He finished 6th at state and perhaps could have done better, but broke his leg during the state meet. Brad Little finished 4th, and Thomas Mosentein was a section runner-up. In our boys Alpine team, it was their 2nd year to advance the team to the state tournament. They finished 6th, whereas last year they finished 8th. Our girls team, Eleanor Robb, she was her 2nd year and finished 12th at state. And our girls hockey team had Miss Scully finalists and Carly Tuman. We signed 4 national letters of intent during our winter signing period. Our spring was extremely successful in terms of competition. And when I say that, our track and field team really had a great showing at state. We put 5 relays in. We had 3 individuals compete, and then we had 3 individuals compete in field events. Jordan Dunnigan, who's centered in the middle picture, he received 5th place at shot and 8th place and the disc. We also had Anatike Anadoga, who I just mentioned, was the speech national champion. She finished 8th at state in the triple jump. So she jumped on Saturday and then took a plane down to Kentucky because she missed the van ride that was leaving on Saturday to get to where they were going. With that, we have 2 golfers. Carter Spalding, he won the Suburban East Conference title and was a state participant, finishing 24th. He actually just won the SEC title by like 1/100th of a point against an East Ridge golfer, and it just goes to tell you that every shot really does count. And then Waverly Yang, she finished 42nd in the state. Our boys lacrosse team was a section champion this year, and they participated in the state tournament. Tuesday we lost, today we won, so we get to advance to the consolation championship on Saturday. Connor Hooley was named East Metro Player of the Year. So other than the rain, everything was great once we got to actually be able to go in May. In regards to our fine arts programs, our musical this year was Chicago, and our musical is in the fall, which allows for Phil and I to share our director, Quim Masterton, together, and he does a fabulous job. They won the Spotlight Community Engagement Award this year, and they were the opening feature in the 2022 showcase. So congratulations to him, because he's doing great things in both of our schools. Our one-act play took place, and it was called Kafka's Metamorphosis, and it was, anytime you see one-act plays, they're interesting. They're short, and they are, leaves you with wonder at times. And our spring play was Clue, and it was really quite cute and fun and neat to be a part of, because we've all played the game, and maybe you've seen the movie, but it was just like, who done it, and how can you make that work from a theatrical standpoint? We were able to have the Suburban East Conference Music Festival again, and on the day of our music festival, our orchestra director was unable to come because of COVID. So I got to go back to an old school that I worked at to be the orchestra director for a period of time, to which I have zero experience doing. So it was a good experience. I think one of the more exciting and fun things that I can remember this year is our orchestra program had a carnival for the first time. And we brought in, and they had it invited to the community. We had our auditorium full of children, because they did Disney songs. And then afterward, they had a free carnival and prizes and games. And it was a ton of fun and very creative. We were also able to follow up with the district events that we've done in the past that we previously hadn't done since I hadn't been here before 2020. So it was good to have that sense of normalcy. Our award winners are Excel. Our juniors, Ava Hacker and Adam Wall in Community Service and Academics. Our AAA, Anatike Anadoga, I've already mentioned her name before, and Dylan Hughes, and then our Athena was Carly Tuman. So those are the large senior and awards that are come through the State High School League, or the Athena, which is an area, regional area award. My favorite moment happened to come in February, late February. We were playing East Ridge. And if you don't know the person in the middle picture, it is Kent Getzlaff, and he is our boys basketball coach and our social studies teacher. He's a beloved teacher. He knows everybody's name. He lives in the community. He's got 2 children in the school district, one in high school and one in the middle school. And KG was diagnosed with cancer this year. And he had a surgery that required for him to cover his head. He came to games soon after receiving treatment. And his large scar on his head prevented him from really showing his head. And at the East Ridge game, we had all of our coaches wearing hats. We had all the East Ridge coaches wearing hats. We had our stands on both student sections wearing hats. And it was just a great moment for our community to come together and support an amazing teacher who gives his all to his students in all capacity. And so it was great to really see that come together when there's such a great rivalry between the 2 schools. And once again, having fans back in the stands was a highlight. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. I'm Sara Palodichuk, the Activities Athletic Director at East Ridge. And you'll kind of hear a repetitive piece on some of the events. And our purpose, though it is to definitely win, it is more about developing character and our students and that sense of belonging. For East Ridge, I choose to lead students to be people of empathy who serve others while developing skills as a student, teammate, and a person of character, which is really important at East Ridge, along with the fact of that sense of community. That's something that we've really worked hard. East Ridge pulls from both Cottage Grove and Woodbury, and at times there is a little bit of tension amongst that, and it's really hard. And a really important piece of our school community is that developing that sense of belonging. And in everything we do, we stress that. Our participation numbers are a little bit different this year as well, as they went down. One of the things that I found very interesting, though, is our student engagement with clubs and activities skyrocketed this year. We had more kids coming in wanting to start a club or engage in a group of something, and it's all student-driven, which is really, really neat to see. They go out and they find a teacher to be their advisor. They fill out a form. They talk about how to advertise for it, how to connect, and they do it. So as far as our high school athletic participations, they were down a little bit, but the actual engagement of other activities was increasingly higher. Fall highlights. We had an amazing fall with our volleyball team. It was exciting. We were section champs and we beat Egan for the first time. They have been section champs for many, many years. They have a powerhouse program, and it was exciting to finally get that victory and head to the state tournament where we placed second. We also had Britt Carlson and Michaela McDougall as all tournament teams. It was an exciting adventure being down at the X. It brings a whole nother perspective to competing at the highest level. Also cross country, Hallie Mastery was our section champ, and she placed fourth at the state tournament. And then Sean McNeish also participated in the state tournament. For soccer, we had 3 students that are on the screen there, Maddie Poor, Nate Lee, and Jess Makovic, who were all state soccer recognitions. And then our swim and dive girls team had a successful season as well, with multiple students participating in the state meet. In sections for individual events, the top, is it 3? Top 2? Yeah, will qualify for that, and then they get to advance and go down to the U of N Aquatic Center and compete for that. So we had relays and individuals. We had 2 football players, Toby Anene and Logan Larson, that were selected to play in the football all-state showcase. Also, Toby and Logan will be heading to North Dakota State and playing football at NDSU as teammates. We had 16 students sign their NLI to play Division I and Division II. As far as our student celebrations and recognitions for that, we also have 3. Our fall one is the traditional NLI. That is students that are just participating in Division I, Division II. Our winter one is our football signing, and that is typically your D1 or D2 athletes. And then in the spring, we do a highlight of any student that is moving on to do to compete at the collegiate level. For winter, our basketball team was conference champions, and then we were section runner-up to Cretin-Durham Hall. We play that game at a neutral site down at Hastings, and it was literally a buzzer beater. We were down, we were up and then tied and then down, and then we battled back, and it was that last minute throw-in turnover, and we ended up being runners-up. So it was a little bit heartbreaking. Our boys swim and dive team had a phenomenal season. Lots of pool records broke. Also, we were section and state champions. We had multiple students participate in the state meet as either individuals or in relays, as well as we had a consolation championship in our 200 free relay. Brendan Sparks, Neil Abrahamson, Morgan Gillard, and Brady Slozbach. Wrestling, this was the first time in 4 years that we had a wrestler advance to the state tournament. Riley Kane, who is also our AAA award winner in the weight class 138, participated in the state meet. And then gymnastics, we had 1 all-arounder, Lauren Rodriguez. And alpine ski, we had Andrew Miller and Emma Coral, and then Sydney Berg. And then for debate, our debate team at Eastridge is huge. It is that in our speech. The participation numbers in that and the success in those programs is outstanding. We have amazing coaches that are extremely dedicated that coach both speech and debate, and they put in tons of time. They're there on the weekends, they're there at night, they're there in the morning. They are extremely dedicated, and Emily Lawrence this year placed second at the state tournament in congressional debate. Last year we had a state winner in that same category. Our winner, as I mentioned, our winner NLI was our 2 football players that are heading to NDSU for that. Spring has been an exciting adventure for us, as mentioned, with the challenges of the weather and the delays in rescheduling and practicing indoors and finding that space to make it all work and happen. Exciting, we returned to the state tournament. My first year in 2019, our team made it, and then this past year, we upset Rosemont. And a funny story with that is once you win the section tournament, you get a little packet. And the state tournament for softball is in Mankato, so we have to travel, because usually all their state tournaments are in the metro area and we're close. But we have to travel to Mankato, so we're getting the information, and you get on your Zoom meeting with the high school league. They go through all the protocol, what you need to do. You're assigned to a hotel. You have to go to this hotel. So we call it to make our reservation. They're like, oh, we don't have you. We have Rosemount. And I'm like, well, we beat Rosemount. Well, they called a week and a half ago, made their reservation, and they went released the rooms to us. But we worked it out, and it was wonderful. A great experience for the girls. They had a beautiful banquet at their civic center where the girls were introduced, and it was a really, really neat experience for them. We lost our first game against Brainerd. They were the number 2 seed. We were unseeded. We won our second, and then lost in the consolation championship. Boys tennis, another fun and exciting season for them. I didn't realize how strategic you are with tennis, as far as, because our 2 number 1 singles all year long play that, but then because we know that Egan and another school have the top individuals in the state that it's going to be hard to beat, we put our 2 top singles together, and they won. And then our number 1 doubles, took second. So both sets of our doubles got to compete at the state tournament. And then our number 1 pairing, Luke and Kaushik, took 4th place, which was really exciting for them. Track and field, we had an amazing season with lots of PRs, lots of kids breaking school records, individual records that have been there for a long time. I think the most unique thing, or which I thought was awesome, was the 1600, which is the mile. We took both first and second in girls and first and second in boys, and the top 2 individuals make it to state. So we swept that category at the section meet. Hallie Mastery and Sean McNeish, who were also a cross country, they both won the 3200 and the 1600. And for track and field, there's prelims and finals, but on distance running, the 32 is the first day and it's a final run, and then the 1600 is the second day. Jalen Harper won the triple jump. Megan Clark was second in long jump and triple jump, and then Daria was first place in the 100, and she just took it away. She won by a landslide, and then she placed 9th at state. And then also for the state tournament, Hallie was 4th in their 3200, Jalen was 3rd at state, and then Megan Clark, she took 3rd in long jump and triple jump. Our boys golf had an excellent season when they could get it in. Lots of long days for them. As far as their conference matches, they do 18 holes, and we were conference champs, and then we had one student, Justin, who qualified for state, and I think he placed 23rd or 29th. He was really close to the Woodbury guy. And then baseball, we were section runner-up. We lost early and had to work our way back, which was exciting. We ended up playing Woodbury in one of the semifinal games, and to be there, it's at a neutral site. It's at Northwestern College off of Snelling there, and it's a smaller stadium area, and the 2 teams, the fans, the kids, everyone that was there cheering on, yes, your home team, but also somewhat for each other. There was, it was on a Saturday. It was a beautiful day. It was a great game, and we were lucky enough to win it, and we lost to Stillwater, who advanced to state. Also for speech, we have Zoe, who placed 6th in storytelling. As mentioned, our speech program is outstanding. Our numbers, we host a speech and a debate tournament, 2 separate tournaments at our high school with hundreds of kids. You see them standing against the wall, talking and practicing against the wall. They're in mirrors. Just the sheer, we talk about grit in athletics. The grit and perseverance and the courage that they have to perform the way that they do is truly amazing. And then in the spring, we had our biggest biggest spring signing with 14 student athletes celebrating and moving on. The majority of them were Division III athletes at that time. The Thunderbolts. They are outstanding. This year, we offer 3 seasons of competitive high school league Thunderbolts, soccer, floor hockey, and softball. They compete inside. This year, they were at a neutral site where they, the last 2 years down at Nuevas Fronteras so that they could have their own space. But it was a little challenging. It was removed from the high school. It was a little bit further away from everybody. So this year we brought them back into the high schools. Park hosted soccer, Woodbury hosted floor hockey, and then Eastridge hosted softball. And by doing that, we were able to have their friends and their peers and more spectators come and cheer them on and celebrate and watch them play. 3 seasons, 3 state participants. They were the underdogs in all 3 section tournaments, and they made it through, and they made it to the state on all 3. Bowling for our adaptive, it's called Power. It's all 3 of our schools as well, and that's more of a club. We don't compete at the high school level. One of the things that we did this year to recognize and celebrate our Thunderbolts for their state tournaments is often we have what's called state send-offs. And for our traditional sports, we do it in the morning before school, at least at Eastridge. And the kids the team, like our volleyball team when they went, they came to the gym at 8:15 and the students are welcome, staff, we have the band play, we announce the kids. That's a little bit overstimulating for our adaptive program. So what we did this year for all, except for the softball because we were out of school, is we did a hallway march. So the last 10 minutes of school, we had all of our students at Eastridge High School line the main hallway, and we had our band start, and then our students behind them, and our marching band, or our pep band, would play the school fight song, and then the students would walk behind, and then all of our students were lined, high fives, lots of kids made signs to cheer them on and encourage them, and the feedback from the parents, because a lot of the parents were there, or the students from the other schools, either their special ed teacher or their parent picked them up and drove them over, and they all participated in this. And it just made them feel, that extra special and acknowledgement, which then you see in the one picture there is more of our students traveled and cheered them on. So this is a favorite memory of mine, is our Thunderbolt season. And one of our students, Ryan, who's just getting into more engagement. Usually he'd sit on the bench. He wasn't really an active player. This year he was our third baseman. And I tell you, every game I went to, he must have caught 2 or 3 pop flies. And every time he caught it, he, I think, surprised himself too, because he would jump up and down. I did it. As they're like, okay, let's keep the game going, as he's celebrating himself and the team. But it just brings the competitiveness back into perspective, and to watch and cheer them on. And man, I tell you, they are competitive and they are good at what they do as well. So our Thunderbolts, again, was extremely successful, and we can continue to see them progress as the years go on. We're constantly always looking for participation numbers and increasing that as well. Fine Arts was busy at Eastridge. Our fine arts programs, whether it's arts, drama, our orchestra, band, choir, theater, is always happening. The loft stage is always busy with something. And this year our fall musical was SpongeBob, which was very engaging. If you didn't get an opportunity to see it, it was outstanding and fun. Just that lighthearted fun. A lot of times they're just so integral in the musicals, and it was nice to have a little bit more lighthearted one. Our one-act play, as mentioned, one act is always just a little bit different. It was Frankenstein, 1930, and as athletic directors, we have to screen the one act, and we have to sign off on it, and we have to go through and watch. And the students, actors and actresses that we have, and how they can learn all of the lines, it just truly amazes me, the talent that they have. And then our spring play was The Tempest, which was extremely challenging. It was Shakespeare, which was a little bit over my head, but the kids, again, learning the script and just the dialogue of that is outstanding. We had our Fine Arts Festival back this year, which was outstanding, which really focuses on all of our fine arts. A lot of it was our art department and photography displaying a lot of their work, and then also our music orchestra, our band orchestra and choir singing. I want to acknowledge that the student conductor I had him at Middleton, and his name is Mason Abrahamson, and he conducted multiple times during the year as our orchestra conductor, and he started a group of young student musicians because the ensembles at the beginning level often don't have time. The teachers are stretched and they just don't have that many time slots in the day. He took on a group of young starters with orchestra, and he then performed with them at our spring festival, and they did outstanding. And then the SEC musical, or the SEC Music Festival is coming to Eastridge next year. So it will be our turn to host on February 6th. It's e-learning day, is that what we're calling them next year? We will be hosting, and look forward to that. Our award winners are Excel for our juniors, and Michael Edgerton. He was also selected by the state, at the state level, for his accomplishments with leadership and music. And then Cece Groach was our female. Triple award winner was Kylie and Rhea. And then Maddie Poor was our award winner. Maddie is heading to the University of Wisconsin-Madison to play soccer and continue her education. Favorite moments. As Phil and Jodi had shared, there were so many of the moments to celebrate. Just the sheer excitement in the fall with the amount of students engaged in our events and activities was outstanding. One of the things that I did mention was our student engagement with our clubs and activities. And just to name a few of the things that our kids are involved in: student council, student ambassadors, NHS and AHS, Key Club, yearbook, prom, homecoming, BPA, math club, HOSA, medical club, bowling club, SAD, BSU, Hmong American, diversity club, ping pong, chess, GSA, real estate club, mock trial, mountain biking, ultimate frisbee, newspaper club, science olympiad, Unified, Yana, Children of the World, Close the Gap, which was created by students for a tutoring, to provide tutoring for students, esports gaming club. These are all clubs. The majority of them are clubs that the students initiate, and they start up and they get going and they get involved. One of the biggest celebrations we had this year was our Black Joy celebration that we had at school. Was a favorite memory of mine, that our BSU, along with our diversity club at all three schools, put together performances, food, culture, a time to come together and celebrate and to just see the students shine and glow. And it was fantastic. And we've had multiple. Our Hmong American celebration every year is just outstanding. They perform dances for us. Again, the wonderful food, the traditional dress. So we definitely look forward to continuing to provide those opportunities for our kids. And the last thing is, as you enter Eastridge through our activity stores, this winter we added flags. That was something really important to our students. That was the voice of our students saying, we need more representation. We want to be recognized for who we are. So we worked with our student council. We got the flags. The admin team hung them during the winter break. And then as the spring came, we wanted to do a dedication plaque. So the students had a committee, and they created the words that they wanted on this plaque. And it is, our school welcomes and embraces all backgrounds and cultures. We take pride in each student's unique identity and seek to lift each other up. These flags represent the unity at Eastridge High School and celebrate our diversity. We are one Eastridge, class of 2022, Eastridge Student Council. So when you come in now to the entrance, that plaque is on the wall, and you'll get to see our beautiful flags. Thank you so much for your time tonight and letting us share all the wonderful things that have happened at our three high schools.
Thank you.
Questions? Bill, Jodi, and Sara, thank you so much. And you notice I didn't say those last names. I got through it once. So they're beautiful names. We want to thank you for your excellent, energetic leadership. You guys are strong, and I'm telling you, And to those students, even as they leave, you did a wonderful job. We are so proud of you. And to the parents, thank you for your commitment to your children. It takes strong parents to lead the way. So we congratulate you and keep up the good work, kids. You will go a long way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to, again, add, obviously, all these accomplishments happen with lots and lots of support. There's the three of us, and then there's many, many branches there, and we get tons of support from our building leadership and principals and assistant principals at the district level from Julie, and Christine Schaefer works really closely with us, and obviously from the school board. So, you know, it takes a village, and again, it's neat to see that this village can create all those great opportunities and successes for kids. So thank you for all the support.
And Phil, I would just say I love the way the student said, I see Mr. Kuemmel wherever I go. And I'm sure they say that about Mrs. Loeblein-Lecker and Mrs. Palodichuk.
Yep,
It's
yep.
like,
Yeah.
I know that when I go to events, I always see one of them
Yes,
at the
yep.
event. So
I
thank you.
didn't tell him to say that. That was all. I was like, what? It's about you, Zach, not
Where's
about me.
Mr.
but
Kuemmel?
yes,
It's going to be a new book.
Kind of like Where's Waldo? Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Okay, moving right on. The next item on our agenda is 5.0, comments to the board. Dana? Okay, we did not have any sign up tonight. Now, we will go to 6.0, consent agenda items, and that will be Katie Schwartz.
Okay, all consent items are considered routine and non-controversial by the school board and will be approved by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. Prior to the meeting, board members have had the opportunity to review each of these items and may request that any item be moved to the action items for individual consideration. That did not happen this evening, so can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion by Simi, second by Louise. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Next is 7.0, information items. 7.1 is general school board district safety, and that will be presented this evening by Dan Pine, Director of Finance and Operations.
Good evening, Chair Van Leer, members of the school board, Superintendent Nielsen. We could watch this, or I could perform Frankenstein 1930 for you. No, recent national events obviously have heightened concerns about school safety. Napoleon Generou is our emergency preparedness coordinator, and tonight he will present an overview of school safety in the district.
Good evening. Thanks for having me, Napoleon Generou. Part of my duties are to oversee not just emergency management, but the safety and security of schools. So we'll go through, like I said, the overview of how we manage that within the district. In emergency management, there's kind of 5 realms that you look at, the preparedness, or prevention, mitigation, preparedness, response, recovery. So that's how I've laid out school safety for you to see the different layers that we have to prevent any incidents from happening. First part of prevention is the relationships we have with our students. I emphasize this in new employee orientation and within our schools. Having that trust, that relationship, that open communication between our staff and our students is the best protective measure we can have to support our students and keep them from getting to where they're so distressed that something happens in the buildings. So we do emphasize being that school friend beyond only an educator to our students. While they're in the schools, staff do look for kind of those warning signs, any of the situations that might be of concern anytime a student's off a baseline, and that's when we start asking questions, find out what's going on, and then the schools have support for that, so it's not just the teacher trying to figure that out, it's the admin, it's their safety people, it's their mental health folks, whatever that looks like to do our due diligence to make sure that student is staying safe. Now, part of that process is, or one of those processes is our behavioral threat assessments. So anytime a student makes a threat of violence towards another student or towards the building, we investigate those. The process itself is kind of, it's based off Secret Service information, but there's a form that we go through that has categories of risk and what we know about that student's history, and we categorize, or fill in that as much as we can, categorize what kind of level of support that student needs, how do we protect that target, how do we protect that student. The who's involved is that we do make sure we have mental health and admin and anyone that knows that student personally in there, so we're getting that complete picture of what that looks like. We also have a risk assessment process. That's where someone's making self-harm indications instead of others. I'm not as familiar with that because it goes through mental health instead of through me, but it's a very analogous process where we're trying to bring in those mental health support people, the ones that know the student, and then finding a way to get them through this crisis that they have. Another aspect we have is our tip line, so it's the tip information portal. It's set up mainly for secondary students, but it's a website or a section of our website that you can go to, fill out in a form, anonymous or not, attachments or not, so they can upload pictures or videos. Anything that tipster wants to provide then goes directly to that school's administrative team to figure out kind of what's going on and how to address it. Another one of those mitigations we have is our local partnerships with our cities that we're in, Cottage Grove, Woodbury, Newport, St. Paul Park, the county. We do work with their fire, their EMS, their police services. So when we have emergencies, they're familiar with our buildings and able to support us that way. The emergency response protocol that I'll get to later was the one recommended by the county emergency management that they're trying to get all kind of public agencies within the county onto, so there's a consistent response no matter where you go within that county. And then that bottom point is all officers in Washington County are trained in the same active shooter protocol. So again, no matter where you go, they have that cooperative knowledge of how to work with each other. Our high schools do have school resource officers, 2 from Woodbury PD and 1 from Cottage Grove. They work in the buildings every day that there's student contact. They're there to support within that building, provide information, provide access to resources, however that school needs them to work with the students. We are very thoughtful about keeping criminal activity and school discipline separate. So they are only involved with students when there's, for like informational or if there's some kind of criminal level. They don't get involved with things that are only related to school. The school handles those themselves. Our SROs also serve as kind of the juvenile specialists for their departments and community liaisons when they're not in the school. So like during summer, they're juvenile detectives and handle kind of any of those youth incidents and support our middle and elementary schools. The high schools also have a student safety liaison. That's a new position for this year. With COVID and some of those dysregulations we saw with online learning and those kind of things, it's a little more activity in the hallways or a little more severe than we've typically seen. So each high school had this liaison position to kind of help mitigate that. The 3 that we hired were all very experienced with students in different kind of aspects, and their focus during the school year was to bring those behaviors in, kind of get those guardrails back up, help kids stay out of the hallway, help them get to class, and then they do some of those safety duties like oversee the hall monitors, check doors, do the parking lots, those kind of pieces. For our mitigation for physical setup, each building does have only 1 secure entrance available to the public during the school day. Every one of those goes to a secure vestibule where there's an intercom and a buzzer system, so anyone coming into the building does have to be individually allowed in by a person that's already inside the school. Our other doors have access control on them, so our staff can go, but that's only for, if you have the key card. Our classroom doors do lock from the inside, and I do recommend to schools to keep them locked all the time and just have them, propped on the door hanger. So if there is something that happens, they only have to pull the door shut. They're not looking for keys or something like that. And then our glass in the doors and in our exterior windows are all laminated, so it's not, you just don't hit it and it shatters like your house window. It's more like a car windshield where it takes a little more effort for it actually to fall apart. It won't just drop onto the frame. Some more of our safety systems are our visitor check-in. That's through Raptor Technologies. That's not Eastridge related. That just happens to be the name of the company. So anyone coming in goes for an instant check against national offender databases, and we can flag individuals ourselves if we know that there's some kind of concern with a person. We have radios in every building, so there is communication across those, and then we have a district network if that's ever needed. We have cameras in our buildings, focused mainly on common areas, so entrances, hallways, those kind of things. We have public address in every building to let people know what's happening, and the newer systems we're putting in that are in our high schools, some of our middle schools already, And then moving into elementary schools, have an emergency button. So if there is something in that individual classroom, that teacher can alert the office just with that one button push. And then when our schools all have phones in them, so our phones do direct dial from every classroom to 911 if there ever is a need for that. So for preparedness part, we do have our crisis management policy, it's 806, and that has a bunch of criteria of different situations we need to manage listed in there. The way that we handle that is our district admin, our school admin have access to our system leader's emergency response packet that outlines how to respond to any one of those situations that's listed in the crisis management plan. And additionally, each classroom has kind of a condensed version of that for the teacher in that classroom and how they can implement those pieces with their job. Like, for example, the system leader part talks about communicating to the district office. A teacher won't do that in their classroom, so their packet doesn't need that part, but they're able to respond to whatever they need to with their student group. We also have a SITREP system or situational report that Pepe started. So anytime we have an incident within a building, and whether it's as simple as a power outage or something more like a fight, that school can fill out one online form, and that distributes to district leadership, so we're aware of what's going on, know how to support them, how to manage that situation, and then we can respond as an email group, so different aspects of that, our departmental response can go and help that school. Part of the training that we do for the preparedness is I do a presentation very similar to this one with new employees as they start. So everyone has the same kind of baseline that they're working from. And then during our back to school time, each school covers emergency safety procedures as part of that return in the fall. And then by state law, we have a number of drills we have to do. So 5 evacuation drills, 5 safety drills, 1 shelter, and 1 bus evacuation. So the response we actually use is called the Standard Response Protocol from the I Love You Guys Foundation. So they have these posters, you'll see them up in classrooms, common areas. The idea is that no matter what situation we find, it can be distilled down to one of these 5 directives. So you're not learning a bunch of different responses, you're using a handful that are very similar to each other to manage any of those situations that come up. The first one's a hold, which is actually an administrative directive. It's not for safety or security. It's to make managing a situation easier in that building. So you'll see this for maybe a fight, maybe a medical emergency. It's just getting people out of the way so we can have that better response from your management team. We have a secure, which is when something's outside the school that we're trying to prevent from coming in. So once everyone's inside, we've verified that building's secure. Everything in school happens same as normal because that situation's outside and we've secured ourselves to prevent it from coming in. The lockdown is more the drills you hear about in the news where something's inside the building, and that's where students or staff get into a secured area, they stay quiet, they stay safe, kind of figure out how that situation develops. The next one we have is evacuate, which is fairly self-explanatory, that we're leaving one area to go to another. So whether that's leaving the building for, say, a fire alarm, or leaving one end of a building if we had, for example, a chemical spill at one of our middle schools, we might not be able to, inhabit that activities end, so the announcement would tell you everyone on that side to move to the other end of the building. And then shelter, Minnesota, typically that's going to be our severe weather shelter for a thunderstorm or whatever that looks like. Then we have a slightly different protocol we use if there's an active threat. So that's where someone's actively causing harm to others. So we use the ADD strategy that's from alert. So avoid, deny, defend. Avoid is any way of getting, any type of action to get away from that situation. So whether that's leaving the building, leaving the area, self-evacuating, all of those things are okay under that avoid because you're escaping from that threat. The deny is anything that prevents that threat from reaching you. So that may be getting behind a locked door. It might be building a barricade if you're in a room that doesn't have a locking on it. It might be hiding. But anything that slows down that threat from reaching you and gives first responders more time to get there. And then defend is if that threat happens to manifest in front of someone or it comes to the area they're in. We do allow defense. You don't have to defeat that threat necessarily, but you can disrupt it or delay it or create more time to take another option. So this kind of guide sheet gives you some examples of when we would use those different situations. As you can see, most of the things that would happen in a school are in that hold, that low-level response where we're just keeping people out of the way for fights or cleanup or medical emergencies. And then, like we said, we talked about secure if it's outside, lockdown if it's inside. So part of the emergency response is our recovery. So within the district, we have our flight team program. So this is a district-wide team of mental health providers, social workers, those kind of helper jobs. And they come into any school that has an unexpected death, or it could be expected, of staff or students. And then they support that staff group and that student group to get through their kind of initial response to this death. So we've used this, unfortunately, a few times when we've had, student accidents or whatever has happened. But it's very helpful because they have a detailed check sheet they go through. So we cover all those aspects, and it takes that burden of response off the school staff. So that school, administrators going through their own processing of that event and having the flight team come in and kind of taking that helping piece off has been very effective in getting that school back to their, kind of their normal baseline. We also have a reunification process, so if we ever do need to leave a building because of, whatever that situation would be, it might be a natural gas leak, it might be whatever, we have some unification pieces set up to make sure we have our accountability and get everyone back to their families. We have kind of the basic outline, and I need some more depth built into it. I'm working with Washington County Emergency Management to learn lessons from Stillwater, Forest Lake, and kind of build our system better than the mistakes they found so far. And then we do have our local partners. If that situation is something that overwhelms our ability to respond, we have emergency management from our cities, from our county. We have the public health from county can set up a family assistance center if that's needed. The county has crisis response and Canvas Health that will come in if we need that kind of mental health aspects to it. And then we do partner with our local agencies, and this August we're doing a training between our school principals and our law enforcement partners to discuss some of these kind of higher level incidents. What would we do? What can we expect from each other? And how to manage those. So, any questions on safety overview? Okay.
No questions?
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next is, we have 7.2, the Student Handbook, and that will be presented by Kelly Jensen, Assistant Superintendent.
All right. Good evening, Board Chair Van Leer, board members, and Superintendent Nielsen. Tonight I'm here to review with you the 2022-23 SoWashCo School Student Handbook. Student handbooks serve as a venue for us to provide information and required notices to our students and families. They also serve as a tool for students and families to work together with us so that we can provide an excellent education and a safe climate and culture for our students. This evening, I'll be highlighting some of the updates to our handbook. As you can see, tomorrow this will go live, so our new updated handbook will replace what's on the website right now in our rights and responsibilities section. When we set out, our goal was to combine our district annual notifications and our student handbook topics in one spot for our parents and students so they knew where to find everything. The annual notifications are things that we are required to notify parents and families of, or students and families of, whether it's by policy or by statute. And then our student handbook topics outline often some of the events that our students experience, in particular discipline incidences that may have consequences. So this is the notification that we provide for them, and they sign off that, yep, we understand the rights and responsibilities of a SoWashCo school student. So when you look at those two broader topics, they can be broken down into these four areas: that policy, statute, and law, the procedures that go along with those policies that we've been working to pull out of policy, our student rights and responsibilities, and then, as I mentioned, those potential consequences in the event a student does not follow those rights or responsibilities. So when you get to our landing page, I've been working with our communications department to update our website. So as I mentioned, tomorrow this will be live on all of our schools' websites. When you get to the student handbook landing page, this is the introduction paragraph. The intro paragraph you see explains why we have our student handbook. It also gives them the information on what items are indicated that our notice is required by statute and what items our notice is required by school board policy. And then it also has kind of a disclaimer statement. Everything you see tonight has also gone through our legal counsel for feedback. And this is one thing that came out of that yes, we've done our best to put everything we can in our student handbook and it's here. And you are still required to know all of the policies and everything else that's required of you as a student. So it's kind of that disclaimer that we've added that we did our best to show you everything we think could happen, but you are still responsible for knowing all of the district's policies. Once you get past the introduction paragraph, you will get down to this part of the website, which is the student handbooks by topic. And the topics you see here could have multiple sections underneath them. And I'm going to show you a list of all of the topics here in a second. But one thing you'll also notice is that you can filter by elementary, by middle school, or by high school. So if you have a student in elementary and you clicked on that, only the elementary the student handbook topics and notifications would show up there. So this is slide 1 of 2 that is an overview of all of the topics. And as I mentioned, this isn't new information. This is just where we brought information together for people to have easier access. Some of the highlights or updates that we have changed the language just a little bit or based on things that have happened with the school board in the past. Our freedom of expression section, we provided guidelines and expectations for students, expression of voice, for example, student walkouts, things we hope that they will provide with us and we can partner with them so that they feel like they have a safe space and a venue and yet know that they still have a voice and they are encouraged to be activists in a safe and responsible way. The gender and student civil rights section has links and procedures and guidelines that outlines the rights for our transgender students. So that information is available for students to click on and families to click on. The homework is now, as you saw, going to be split out between elementary, middle, and high school. And we put it in the student handbook so that students have access to it and our teachers have access to it so it can be a conversation about the expectations of homework and grading, and we're hoping that that's going to start some dialogue with our students and our teachers as well. And then also our Indigenous land acknowledgement. We added that so students and families know that the board has added that to the process, and so that information exists there as well. On this page, you see another extensive list of the topics. Some of the highlights from this are racial equity and inclusion, where we highlight our racial equity promise that was adopted by the school board, and also this fall rolling out a procedure for students to report any incidents in which they have experienced racial harm in school, and so that they can see what the response expectations are for that. The safety and security, as Napoleon just went through, highlights much of that information and also the importance that safety and security is all of our responsibilities. It's not the principal, it's not the teacher, it is all of our responsibilities, in particular as it relates to letting students or other people in the building. So we're gonna highlight that this fall. Student ID badges, just the requirement to keep them on their person next year. We are really gonna try to work for that for our middle school and our high school students. We are phasing in student scanners, and so when a student reports for attendance and they're late or they're leaving early, they'll just be able to scan their ID, and the attendance clerk will have less steps in terms of resolving absences. Another feature of that is also for our parents to be able to report absences through the portal now, instead of having to call the attendance line. So we're really excited about some of those upgrades, and it comes with hopefully having our students carry their IDs. We know that it will be a process. One of the great benefits is they can have it on their phone. They can just have the barcode on their phone. So we're hopeful that that will be good for our students and staff next year. And then we've also added some language to our social media and technology and internet acceptable use section. We highlighted the importance of appropriate use of social media, screen time, along with cyberbullying. We've added some language in there. And so as I mentioned, all of this existed somewhere, and so we just put it together so that it was easy for our students, our families to find. Then after the handbook topics, which as you saw, were kind of those things that are really important in the lives of our students, we kind of pursed those out. And then we also have this section where we are required to give annual notice to our families. As you can see, it's a little bit smaller, but each of these have a few different links in them. But here are the annual district notifications. And as you can see, those with one asterisk indicate that we are required to give notice by state statute, and two asterisks indicate that we have it in our school board policy that we would alert you to this at the start of every year. And so on the website, when you click on that, it has a paragraph or two about what that is. So next steps for the handbook, as I mentioned, the site will be live tomorrow. We are going to begin working on a student video. We're going to do an elementary student video and a secondary student video that all students will watch this fall. And I'm sure we'll work with communications to get that to our parents and families as well. And then our secondary students for sure do a receipt of acknowledgement that I've seen this and I understand this in the event that we have to refer to that in the future. Oh, I think I forgot. I did want to point out, I'm sorry, on this, the annual notifications, one highlight was the search of student lockers. So we have to provide notice that we have the right to search students' lockers, desks, et cetera. We are adding this year that the district reserves the right to bring in detection dogs in partnership with local law enforcement. So we haven't done that in the past for a while. It is common practice around the state. In particular for high schools. And so Christine Schaefer has been working with local law enforcement to put that notice in there so that next year that we can work with them and potentially use it, hopefully as a deterrent for our high schools. Sorry that I forgot to mention that. Any questions?
Just have a comment. Very nicely done as someone who's written these before. This is wonderful.
Yeah, it was a team effort for sure. Like I said, we just pulled information from everywhere. We vetted it through principals multiple times. So, and Laura Bourne in communications has been amazing getting it user-friendly up on the website. So thank you.
It's great.
Okay, any more questions? Thank you, Kelly. Next is 8.0 are action items, and 8.1 is the approval of proposed policy changes, and that will be presented by our Superintendent, Julie Nielsen.
Thank you, Chair Van Leer. First of all, the highlight policy 621, I know Kelly just spoke about it, our homework policy. That has moved into procedures, and so that now is located in our student handbook. But the recommendation was to remove that policy. And then you see that there were slight changes in other policies, 903, visitors, 903.4, public solicitation, 903.5, volunteer background checks, 904, distribution of materials, and 905, advertising. And so those policies were reviewed at the last board meeting on June 2nd, and this evening we are asking for approval.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the policy changes?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Katie and seconded by Eric. Is there any discussion or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Next is 8.2. Hey, Dan. The approval of the preliminary 22-23 budget, and that will be presented by the Director of Finance and Operations, Dan Pine.
Good evening again. This is a very short short report, but I know Sharon's been bugging me, so I'll tell you a quick story. I was sitting in a bar the other day, and I overheard two guys talking, and they were watching this something on the TV. It was about scuba diving. And then one guy said, "Why do you suppose these scuba divers put all their stuff on, and then they sit on the edge of the boat, and they fall back into the water?" And the other guy said, "Well, if they went forward, they'd still be in the boat."
That's my son's favorite joke, Dan.
Is it? Anyway, so school districts are required to have their revenue and expenditure budgets approved by June 30th, preceding fiscal year. Our department has prepared the 22-23 budget for school board approval. This budget includes the general fund, school nutrition fund, community education fund, also a building construction fund, debt service fund, internal service fund, custodial fund, and the OPEB trust fund. And on the cover page, you can see that they're all listed. When you approve this budget, you're approving these expenditures in these funds. You're not approving line by line, but you're approving the total expenditures. The total of all our funds is $336,594,272 in revenues, and expenditures is $349,039,173 in expenses. This budget we project would leave our general fund unassigned fund balance at about 7.2%. It's a conservative budget. And included in your packet is a summary of all the funds. There's also a budget book, which also includes summaries of all the funds and the summaries of the years before. And I would just like to thank Chris Blackburn and her team for putting this together. Like we said before, it's many, many, many lines, and they go through each line and make sure that we don't miss anything. And her team includes Amber, Galku, Amy, Diana, Patty. And as you notice, lots of women back there, so you probably know the way and the way. So with that, I would ask for approval.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the 22-23 budget?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Pat, seconded by Simi. Is there any discussion or comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Dan. It was a good joke, by the way. Now we have the 8.3, the approval of the Minnesota State High School League membership, and that will be presented by Assistant Superintendent Kelly Jensen.
Good evening again, School Board Chair Van Leer, school board members, and Superintendent Nielsen. I'm here tonight to seek approval for renewing the membership for South Washington County School District to the Minnesota State High School League. We are currently and have been members of the Minnesota State High School League, and each year the league requires school boards to authorize membership for the following year. In your packet, you will see the resolution that is confirming the school board delegates the following 3 items. Delegates the control, supervision, and regulation of league-sponsored athletic and fine arts activities to the Minnesota State High School League. Delegates the school board to adopt the Minnesota State High School League Constitution, bylaws, and rules and regulations. And delegates the administration and responsibility for supervising registered activities is assigned to our official school representatives. So first, I would like to confirm that each of you have viewed the Why We Play video that was sent to you electronically and reviewed the Code of Conduct statement. Can we get confirmation that each of you have viewed the video and reviewed the Code of Conduct?
Yes.
And lastly, I would like to seek approval for membership for the 2022-2023 school year with South Washington County School District and the Minnesota State High School League.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the State High School League membership?
Second.
Okay, it was moved by Louise and seconded by Eric. Is there any discussion or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Kelly. Next, we have 4.0, approval of the tentative agreement with the nutrition services, and that would be presented by Dan Pine.
Good evening again. Negotiations towards a collective bargaining agreement between South Washington County Schools and the Nutrition Services Association. It resulted in a tentative agreement to be effective July 1st of 2022 to June 30th of 2024. The members of that unit have approved the tentative agreement. Some of the highlights of the agreement. The wages, an aggregate 8.6% increase over the next 2 years. The increases on the wages had to do with changing the longevity, setting up some other classifications, and they accepted no increase in year 2. And when we do the wages for this group, we have to remember that it's in the school nutrition fund only, and it's a fund that runs on its own. So anything that we do here does not affect the general fund. We have run into issues over the years, the last couple of years especially, and getting a little better, with trying to find employees. And our food service workers are starting out at $15.50 an hour. Our head kitchen leaders, they're making $2 or $3 less than managers at McDonald's and things like that. So as we know that our employees, future employees, potential employees are walking down the street and people are trying to hire people as fast as they can, and they're posting more and more wages, it's tough to keep up. These employees are very loyal, and quite frankly, it's a different mindset and it's a different hours of working. Our kitchen leads, they work 8 hours a day, but many of the other employees, they might start at 10 and be done at 2, and they do it, to be with their families and things like that, but it's also tough to recruit new ones. So we felt we had to move the wages to a good place. And it was a team effort between School Nutrition Association members and Wendy Peterson, our School Nutrition Director, and Chris Blackburn helped out a lot with the costing. And they came to me after about literally less than an hour between a meeting of the 4 of them and said, we got a deal. So it was very exciting that everybody was happy with it, and Wendy said we could afford it and we'll still make money. So I'm anxious for this to get approved because the employees are feeling good about it. Health insurance, they didn't put a lot in there, which means they could afford higher wages, just 4% increase in year 1 and no increase in year 2. And then we increased their uniform allowance, their work clothing allowance. We provide the shirt for them as uniform, but they buy their own safety shoes and their own black pants, of increase of $25 per year. This group is amazing, and we're excited that we have this done for 2 more years, and it was really a great negotiation. So we're looking for the board to approve this agreement.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Can I have a motion to approve the agreement?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Katie, second by Simi. Is there any discussion or comments?
I just have one question. Was this done before they came and gave us the budget? So was this amount included in the budget that they gave us last meeting? Okay. I thought she had said that, but I just.
Yeah, timing takes a long time because, the one business meeting a year, we were done with this negotiation early May.
Yeah, I thought she said that it included it, but I just wanted to double check. Thanks.
Okay, any more questions, comments? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. 9.0 is our superintendent's report given by Julie Nielsen.
Thank you. Our schools program and department bond teams continue to share information regarding our 10-year facility plan and what will be on the ballot August 9th. It's important as a reminder that the school district is responsible for making sure that our communities and residents are informed. I know the sign is over there right now. If you recall, there were some questions around making sure, because August 9th has never been an election that we have had on the ballot. And so we know that other community groups have used signage like that. And so before the end of the year, we wanted to make sure that information was provided to families as they came in and out of school district parking lots. And so you may see some of those out and about on school district property. And great information, if you haven't checked it out lately, great information can be found at SoWashCo.org/facility planning. The last week, we have put in 6 hours with strategic planning. And our first 3-hour session, I'll label it as an absolute blast. because it was a walk down memory lane. And so the most senior person in the space was 1987. And so we took a look back at the school district from 1987 all the way to present. And how eye-opening to walk down memory lane to see what was happening in our schools. And I know Napoleon came up and talked about, we have phones in every classroom. Do you know that there was a point in time when I started that there were no phones in classrooms, that there was actually one phone, and my group, because I was the 1987, I was the first group as well, we all shared a phone. And so if you had to call a parent or a family, everybody waited in a line to use the phone. And so just that one small example of where we've come. But across the board, you could watch the growth of the school district from few elementary schools to when we added schools to when we added a third high school. And what's great about the group is that within the group of staff members, some of those staff members are also students. And so they brought the perspective of a student into those various years as well. So it was very interesting. So we have 6 hours in, 2 3-hour sessions this last week, and our group will continue to meet in August, and I believe it's monthly, and then by November or October, we will come back to the board. And so remember, it's the classroom to boardroom. So we're putting in work now so that we can finalize information and bring that back to the board. And then lastly, it is Dana Potretz's birthday today. So Dana, I thought publicly we would just say happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Dana.
What did she say? She's rounding up to the... Yes, mourning the loss of her mid-20s, yes. She rounded down, and I told her she should be rounding up. The end was an 8. Thank you.
Okay. Next is 10.0, our future meeting dates. We have a school board meeting, business meeting, on July 14th, 2022 at the District Service Center at our earlier start time at 6 p.m. And that means when we have one meeting in July. And we have a school board workshop meeting on August 11th, 2022 at the District Service Center, also at our earlier start time at 6 p.m. Last, we have 11.0, adjournment, and this meeting is adjourned.